Hey.
Hey, how are you, Taylor?
I'm good. I'm good, Ramon. Doing some exciting logistics since we got some stuff going on in the U.S. Feels good to be back in the saddle, so to speak. How are you doing?
Yeah. Thank you. I'm good. It's pretty warm here in Austria. I'm just gonna give myself some light here. Yeah, no, everything's well, thank you. Can't complain. Had an intense couple of weeks, but now it's like settling down a little bit and feeling a little bit more relaxed and eager to do some more open source work with you as always.
Heck yes. Favorite time of the week, right?
Yeah,
No, that's
absolutely.
great. Is that the heat wave that's hitting Europe? You catching a bit of that?
Yeah, it's less intense here in Austria, so it's you know, uh, on average something like 32, 33 degrees Celsius outside.
Yeah.
So in the US that would be, what's it? Oh, I'm so bad
I
at
want to say it's about
Fahrenheit.
a hundred, maybe. It's 90
Yeah,
something.
Celsius to Fahrenheit. It is 89 degrees.
Oh, that's not bad.
No, it's not bad at all. I'm just gonna go ahead and while we get up and running, I'm gonna send out a tweet just letting people know that we're live and that they should come join in.
Sounds good. And as always, if you're watching the stream, we love audience participation. Today, we're going to be talking about GitHub Copilot from our perspectives as open source maintainers. Then we'll take a look at some awesome data that our operations team has put together and we've uploaded to our landing site project. So if you're into number crunching or visualization or something, I think there's some really cool stuff that you can do with that. And then I think we'll wrap it up probably at that point, highlighting some of those issues that we added last week, Ramon. Good kind of first
Yeah.
issues getting started on the project. So
Yeah, we in case you missed it, Monday was the World Refugee Day, and we had a 12-hour long um,
yep,
code jam,
yeah,
and it was a good time. I had a wonderful time. Like, it was a good opportunity to kick back a little bit and like focus on the onboarding aspect of our projects and think about how we can, make this smoother. Take into consideration how we could do this better. And so we've made. I'm actually very excited because for context, live viewers and people catching up on YouTube. Um, Taylor and I, every time we would do one of these streams, I would sort of like run around and get us a Gitpod container up and running. But now it'll be as easy as just pressing a button in the README file, which is something that can be done even by you. So if you're watching and you're interested in checking it out, we've now added a README button to the distributed landing site um, repository where a README file where you can just click on um, open in Gitpod and
do you want
just
to
get up
share
and
your
running.
screen and show people, Ramon?
You know what? That's a great idea. Let me do just that, as well as doing some really cool cleaning up of data and what Taylor's going to be showcasing today. We're going to be nerding out about some data. Let me just get us there. All right. Yeah. So here we are um, in the repository, and what we've added is an open in Gitpod button. What's cool about it is that all you have to do really is click it. This will ask you to sign in with GitHub. So you just, oh gosh, I'm not signed into GitHub. All right, let's do that live. Yeah, sign in with GitHub, and then you're essentially off to the races.
Yeah, no, it's really cool. Anyone with a GitHub account can open one of these up, and Ramon and I really like Gitpod because it's great for collaborative coding. So I actually did
Yeah,
this with my buddy Jake on Tuesday. He's back in the States after a couple of years. We wanted to hang out and catch up, and like our streams and stuff. It's a good way to catch up with people and ask them how they've been doing, but also have something to tinker around with. So we were working on using some of that new data and starting to set up for it. But we're just able to click Gitpod. And what I like about Gitpod is it's collaborative by default, right?
yeah,
So I do want to walk folks through like one or two steps to set that up. So right now, Ramon, if you shared that link with me, I wouldn't be
Mm-hmm.
able to access it. I think you need to go to yep, just the share setting.
Share.
Boom. So you click one button on Gitpod, and then now Ramon can send me that link, and I can join him, and we'll share. Like we can see each other's changes in files and on the terminal and stuff.
It's brilliant. Let me just make the.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm going to do, folks? Two things. First off, this needs to be larger so that y'all can see. As always, if the screen is too small, please give us a shout, and we'll increase the font size. That's what we're here for. Hey, Noel is here.
What up,
Noel with one L,
Noel?
love it. Hey, good to see you. Thank you for joining.
Yes.
Hey, if you're interested in joining in, please feel free. We're doing some. Do we want to give him a little bit of a? Do we want to give a little bit of context as to what we're doing here, Taylor? Since
Yeah,
this is your first time with
totally.
us.
So why don't I hit up the big picture DA stuff, and then you can talk about our OSS?
Yeah, sounds great.
Cool. So for those of you who might be new to the stream, or just have kind of over time forgotten what we do, distribute aid. I'm trying a new tagline here. I want to say that we are the supply chain for the solidarity economy, right?
Like
So
that.
there's been this huge movement. We see a lot of that in open source with tech, but in terms of physical goods that people need to get through their lives, we have a lot of there's a lot of mutual aid going on. There's lots of humanitarian aid initiatives. I think COVID really showed the world that we got to look out for ourselves, right? And we can protect each other and care for each other as communities. So what Distribute Aid is doing is building a global supply chain that connects these communities and makes it really easy for them to send aid to each other to support each other. Our background is kind of coming up through the refugee solidarity movement. So we've sent aid shipments and continue to send aid shipments to northern France and the Balkans and Greece. We're also, of course, responding to the Russia's war in Ukraine in that context of supporting displaced people in Europe. Last year, we started shipping aid to Lebanon, and that's kind of interesting. That kind of gets us, aid there is a band-aid, so it's still necessary, but we're starting to look at more of like the overall economy stuff, especially in Lebanon, because that, kind of growing, helping the groups on the ground grow their local economy is the long-term solution. And of course, we want to support innovative, and ethical business models. So we're working with social enterprises there, that aren't taking the profits and giving that to the owners, but using that as a way to create more jobs locally, create innovative projects like upcycling projects so they can transform goods into something that's usable, and support people, both through the system of charity shops they have, and also through kind of creating jobs and stuff. So yeah, Distribute Aid, we're running a global supply chain to support the solidarity economy. And for context, for our scale, I think in the past year, we've moved about $10 million of aid. So that's pretty incredible. We're 3 years old. We're growing quickly. And it's not about us. What that represents is how much love and support different communities around the world have for each other. And we're just helping get their aid to where it needs to go.
Awesome. Noel with one L writes here. Thank you for doing this work. It's so important. So thank you for joining.
Absolutely.
And this is, the purpose of these streams is to also, showcase and be an open invitation for folks who are interested in, getting started with open source development, in contributing to something, bigger than all of us. Please, please, please send us a DM. Like, you're more than welcome to either join us. We'll happily mentor you, or if you're interested in joining the show, absolutely. I hope that's okay to say, Taylor.
Please.
Absolutely, the more the merrier.
Yeah. And even if you're just watching, you don't want, your face on the stream or whatever, please do participate. Ramon and I often run into problems that we're having a tough time solving. And, if you're someone who has the answer, can look up the documentation or something, get a comment in there on Discord and let us know. Yeah, no, I think putting this in context, what I really like about distributed on the open source side is like, sure, we get to build cool software tools to support
Yep.
our supply chain, but we have a whole operations team around it, right? So you're not just writing software for some library that's going to be consumed by other software and it kind of stays virtual. The code that you write helps us, show the work that we do, helps us do that work. And there's a whole team of us. I think we have about 10 full-time people, still all volunteer. We kind of do housing and cost of living stipends to make it sustainable, but we're still kind of in that grassroots space. But those people take your code and use it to power this supply chain. And so we've done some number crunching recently, and every hour volunteered with Distribute Aid get $600 of aid delivered to the field. And that includes devs and designers and all of the work, even though we're maybe on the open source side, not the ones scheduling the trucks or packing boxes or something. That's okay, because our work enables the rest of that to happen at scale, right? So we kind of looked at everyone's volunteer hours, how much aid we delivered. And I mean, if you want to spend an hour with us, like, feel good about that. You've helped get $600 of aid delivered to the field.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, DMs are open. You can see our Twitter handles here. I'm at OSS Milk and Taylor is Borderless Dev. Please get in touch and let's do some open source stuff. All that
Absolutely.
said, what do you have for us today, Taylor, to work on?
Yeah, so I think we wanted to discuss GitHub Copilot a bit, but actually, I'm really excited by you showing off the Git pod. And what I wanted to show people was how easy it was for you to set this up, and so they could set it up for their own projects as well. So do you want to just talk through? I think it was like you added the button to the README and you added a config file, and then we have Git pod integrated with our GitHub. So we accepted the permissions or whatever. It's like 3 things, and any open source project can have a Git pod with it as well.
Yeah. Here, let me open up another tab and just go through it again, because I kind of glossed over it. Sorry about that.
No, it's all good. You were just talking about it. I'm like, oh, like, this is, people think this is cool. Like, let's show them how to make it happen.
It's amazing. Like, what part of my big focus on working on and with Distribute Aid has been this onboarding aspect of getting people up and running as quickly as possible so that they can make the contributions without feeling stuck. And I feel like one of the other things that Gitpod enables, other than collaboration, which is fantastic, is also this ability to get up, is this sort of like integrated, all right, forget all the yarn stuff, forget all of that, let's just get you up and running as quickly as possible, right? And that's what the open in Gitpod button does. It just opens up Git, like, you click on it, and Gitpod will ask you to sign in with your GitHub account, and then essentially just gives you what you see here, which is a VS Code running in the browser with a terminal included, running on the cloud. That's how Taylor and I can collaborate, right? So it opens that up and just gets you. See, now it's automatically opening a new tab with the website running. So everything's running in the browser, which is just incredible. So the aim there is to, just get you immediately up and running.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, we can all spend all the time we want downloading code locally and configuring our local system and stuff. But I think especially, when people just want to try it out or make that first contribution, or, they only have an hour or something, this just makes it happen like that. And what I love, because it's all in the browser, like, you just enable that share button like Ramon did a minute ago. He can send the Gitpod link to me. We can collaborate on the code. Or, I could send the web page, right? Once the server's running, I can send my EU team a link to that. And we talk about non-code contributions all the time, getting that real-time feedback, getting a review in, giving, non-technical folks like a web page to actually look at and say, okay, this makes sense, or can you make these adjustments, or whatever, is so powerful. And you don't have to mess around with setting up a dev server or exposing ports on your local machine. You can just run a Git pod, run the server, and be like, hey, check it out, right? Yeah. Let's just take a quick look at that Gitpod YAML file and show folks like how easy it was on the configuration side for you to make this happen, Ramon.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
here we go.
11 lines.
We've got here one with yarn install and yarn dev, and one with bash just to have a second terminal, and the browser port to expose, which would be 8,000. And then that's it. It's all
Yeah,
set up.
awesome. Super easy. So check it out on our landing site repo. Add it to your own repos, and happy coding, y'all.
Yeah, let's
Um,
put a let's toss a link in there into the chat.
yeah.
And I'll also throw up our banner. Yeah. I don't know if you can see it, Taylor.
I can. I love it. It reminds me of like a stock ticker symbol, but it's actually
Yeah. It's got
uh,
like a it's got like a newsroom thing going.
yeah,
Sorry, I get easily distracted by that. But yeah, let's do some coding. Or
yeah,
rather,
for
let's
sure.
did we want to cover GitHub Copilot as well?
Yeah, I think so. It's just something that they've released kind of the paid version for. And, we think a lot about kind of ethical tech, being a humanitarian aid organization. So,
Mm-hmm.
do you want to maybe describe what GitHub Copilot is? And then I can kind of talk about how they may or may not be using our code to make this possible. And we can look into some of the ethics for that.
Yeah, yeah. So in case you're not familiar with it, GitHub Copilot, I'm gonna probably get this wrong, so I'm gonna ask to please be corrected. Um, GitHub Copilot is a plugin for your VS Code editor that makes suggestions for your code as you type it. So it's kind of like autocomplete, but like a little bit further, where it looks at your code and makes guesstimates as to what it thinks you might be trying to write. So, for example, I don't know if you're writing, say, some kind of algorithm to search something, then it'll based on based on what it thinks you are doing, which is in its guess uh, a search. It'll recommend the algorithm for a search in your programming language. Now,
Yeah.
the reason that and this was in beta up until like 2 days ago,
Hmm.
and so it sparked up a conversation because part of the conversation at the beginning was how is it doing this, which is doing as it says on the tin here, it's doing it with AI, with artificial intelligence, with machine learning, um, using its wealth of data as a basis for making suggestions based on other people's code. And this is where the conversation has become tricky, and because the question is, where is that data coming from, which is, I think, where your opinion would come in, right, Taylor?
Yeah. So what GitHub's done is they've crawled all of these open source projects on GitHub and created a training set of data for their AI. They then use that training set of data to train the AI and build essentially a model. So when you type in this case, hey, is the string positive or not? Right. It can kind of
Mm.
autofill a lot of the boilerplate there for you for making the HTTP request and what the return should be and things like that. Or otherwise help you complete your function. So they're taking all of this freely contributed code to open source projects and then kind of transforming this into a model which powers their AI kind of autocomplete functionality. And then I think the question is ethically, is that appropriate? Like, is that in the spirit of open source? And we have a whole range of different licenses, right? So I'd say for something like
Yeah,
the MIT license or maybe the Apache v2
right.
license, those are much more permissive open source licenses from a corporate standpoint, where it's kind of like, hey, here's the code I wrote. I want to open source it. You can take it and build off of it, and kind of use it, right? I think there might be requirements if you build off of that particular library to like release those changes, but you can use it in your product, just as a standalone library without having to release your product's whole source code, right? So those are very commercial friendly licenses. here at Distribute Aid, we chose to use the AGPL license. So that is one of
what does that
the,
mean? Yeah.
I think that's the Afro. What does GPL stand for? I forget.
I think it's GNU public license. I could be wrong.
Yeah, something like that. So this license was set up for to be more protective of open source contributors, just like the GPL as well, right? The idea behind it being in a world where everything's on servers, essentially, if you use our code, um, you know, to run a service, you have to make that source code available, right? You might not be distributing the product like on a CD or on a download or something, but if you're using it to run it in a server and you're building off of it, then you need to make your whole source code available, and we do that because we really, all of our code at Distributed is written by volunteers. We want to protect those volunteers' time and energy, and I think that if people want to build off of our work, we'd absolutely welcome that. But please share back with us, right? The other alternative that this allows for is if people really like what we're doing, and maybe there's a supply chain tech company out there or something that wants to get a jump start on a product or something like that. They can license the code from us, right? And that would, we can dual license it. We could have like a private commercial license as well as our public AGPL license. But the idea there is to say, okay, like let's help you out and give you a jump start, by sharing this code with you to use in a commercial context. On the flip side, like this is valuable and we have very real costs in our supply chain. So by contributing some funding back to us, that allows us to, cover our volunteer costs and fund aid shipments and things like that, right? So it's kind of like you can use our code, share your code back with us, or you can use our code, pay us, you have a revenue share, whatever people want to set up so that we can further a humanitarian aid mission. That's kind of the reasoning behind choosing the AGPL license for Distribute Aid. And so far, it hasn't been an issue. What GitHub is doing is they're saying, hey, we can consume all of this code together across our platform and transform it. So they're saying that they've made a derivative or a transformed work, in which case the original licensing does not apply, right? It's more of like feeding code in as data rather than using code, to run a service or something like that. And I think legally they're technically correct, right? But does that mean that they're ethically in the right? Are they following along with the spirit of open source, and especially being such a company that has done a lot for the open source community? Is this kind of a breach of that community trust in GitHub? And I'd love to hear some of your thoughts on that, Ramon.
Yeah. I mean, I think as like there's a part of me that hopes that has a sincere hope that they're playing that they're doing this correctly by respecting the different licenses, by adding the attributions where appropriate. And from what I've seen, and this is on Twitter, so it's your mileage may vary. I've seen folks. Um, I've seen some folks find their 30-year-old uh, GPL code, with the comments, with the swear words and all, in it show up through Copilot, calling that into question because as GNU stipulates, sorry, GPL stipulates, it's copyleft, right?
Yeah,
Meaning
exactly.
that,
Copy left. So that'd be
yeah.
a case where they've consumed this source code from like a GPL based project and then built a model, but that model is outputting the original source code. The model is not even kind of coming up with new code or something, but in some cases it might say, oh, in this case, we'll verbatim kind of copy and paste that with the licensing and the author information stripped out.
Right. Which is, yeah.
And that's potentially a liability for companies too, right? So like if
Absolutely.
it's discovered that, regardless of how you got the actual, if it's the literal code that ends up in your product or something, that is definitely a copyright violation. Um, yeah.
So, from what I understand, they've made improvements to that. This was like right when Copilot came out, so I don't know
Mhm.
if they've adapted and or fixed that. But what's interesting is that after that, now that they've come out of the beta period, um, now again, I'm not fully well read on this, but from what I understand, it's $10 a month and free for open source maintainers.
So that's interesting when you actually read the details on the free for open source maintainers, because I would
Yeah,
understand that more, right? Okay, you're going
yeah,
to use our code, you're going to build a product, you'll charge companies for whatever, but if you got an open source project, you can just use it. That seems like a good way of at least giving back to the open source community, right?
indeed.
But I think there's two things. It's free for open source maintainers. That does not mean it's free for open source contributors, right? So that, I think, creates kind of boundaries, right? It starts to set up different classes in the open source world. Are you a contributor? Are you a maintainer? There are different
Hmm.
responsibilities and perks that come with each. But when you dive in even deeper, it's not free for all open source maintainers. It's free for open source maintainers on popular projects, and you can go to your project and kind of see if you qualify. And that really rubs me the wrong way, right? Because Distribute Aid is not going to ever be a hugely popular project in the context of GitHub, right? We're not Bootstrap. We're never going to get 100,000 stars on our repos or something. But we do really important work, and our tech very directly makes a real impact on human lives around the world. So it seems like that's more of a free for popular open source maintainers. That to me is a marketing initiative. That is not a giving back to the community initiative, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Out of curiosity, have you already tried taking a look?
I have
I don't know how
not
it works.
tried using Copilot. I think that
Yeah,
it could be useful, but given the fact that some of this stuff, while it might technically be legal, like does rub me the wrong way. And also like I worry about isolation in tech, right? Like it can be a fairly lonely job sometimes if you're working from home and just kind of grinding on your company's code. And so I worry about this pitching as like, you know, GitHub Copilot being your AI pair programming buddy, right? And does that further isolation that developers feel in their day-to-day jobs, whereas before they might actually pair up with another human being? And so I would much rather jump on, like, please hit me up on GitHub, let me know if you're interested, and let's jump on a Zoom thing and get a Git pod going and learn about each other. And Distributed is all about connecting communities. I think that should be true in our open source work as well, right? um,
I agree.
yeah.
I agree. Yeah, no, I haven't used it myself. I have to admit, out of laziness. Like I've seen a lot of people saying something like, "Oh gosh, now I'm used to it. I'm not sure I can, work without it," which is entirely fair. Um, I I never got around to it. In fact, I actually had some fun experiences with Copilot where I was teaching. If I'm teaching and some of the learners are using VS Code, and I'm a big believer in like iterative teaching. There's a cool scientific word for it. It's constructionism, where
Ah,
where the knowledge builds on top of itself in modules in a modular fashion. And so as we were implementing something, one of the learners goes like, "Oh, hey, Copilot already did it for me, like the
that's
full
really
lesson,"
interesting.
which is good, but also like made me look foolish. It was interesting.
Kind of, but that also feels like the purpose of the exercise there is for the students to implement it themselves, to learn how that stuff works, and
Yeah,
potentially people who are trying to learn how to code lean too heavily on GitHub Copilot, they're kind of robbing themselves of that learning opportunity. Like
Yeah.
It feels like if you're going to use GitHub Copilot, use it as an accelerant, right? To me, it seems like,
Mm.
let's say you're an athlete, you're just getting into a sport, maybe there's some equipment. Go get the cheap equipment and just focus on doing the thing, right? Get a cheap bike and just start biking and putting the miles in or whatever it is. And then once you're good, once you're into it, then maybe you can upgrade your equipment, upgrade your tools to be more competitive, right? Use that
Mhm.
as like an accelerator. But I think if people are using it, too early, it's almost like Stack Overflow development on steroids, right? And we all go to Stack Overflow, we all Google for stuff, but ideally that points you in the right direction. It shows you the documentation, it gives you more of an understanding. You're not just copying and pasting a solution in that you don't really understand, right? I feel like GitHub Copilot would make it really easy to say, oh, this is what the AI told me to do, so that's what I'm going to do. Then you stop reasoning about things like architecture in your code base, or other considerations that are not just technical coding considerations, but are even things like architecture. That also has the sociological element. How is the team going to be able to continue the work? What is the maintainability of the code? Things like that, right?
Yeah. And you bring up an interesting point because I hadn't even thought of that. But like GitHub Copilot doesn't really know, can't perhaps really know if the code that it's giving you is the best code for the job. Just this is the code that has been most used for the
Yeah,
job. Do you know what I mean?
yeah. And it's not linking you back to documentation and things. Now, it might give you hints and you might go look up that function or something. But I find
Yeah,
often the best parts of Stack Overflow, sure, here's the one liner of someone helping someone else, and that points me in the right direction. But people also link to project documentation and provide other context, right? So it is more of a, find the answer, but learn through finding that answer, not just write the answer into your code base and move on.
totally, totally. Yeah, no,
Interesting stuff.
it's interesting to think about, and like it's like a from a like I've been thinking a lot about like learning to code and all that. And it kind of frightens me a little bit that I won't have that perspective as an educator of having that tool available to you from the start of your learning journey.
Mm.
Empathy is a big part of that for me, and I don't know. Yeah, I guess I gotta. In a way, I kind of should try Copilot
Yeah. Yeah.
just to get that context,
Yeah,
Anyway,
just figure out where it might be useful for learners, and where it might be holding them back. Yeah.
yeah, totally, totally.
Yeah.
It kind of feels like from a learning perspective. Sorry, I don't want to spend too much time talking about like going off on that tangent, but it kind of feels like because I started thinking about like in certain situations it might be good to turn off GitHub Copilot, for learning purposes, and it kind of brought me back to math class when when my teacher would tell me, you're not going to have a calculator available to you at all times, and look at where
Yep.
we are now. We have
Yeah.
you know something much more powerful than the computers of the 60s in our pocket. So it
True.
is quite an implication.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe we're just getting older, Vaughn, and we don't
I
understand what the kids
I
are doing these days.
as I was telling someone earlier today, I like prefer the term still relatively young.
That's true. That's true. Uh,
um yeah, let's do some data, shall we? Sorry,
yeah.
did I give you the chance to say everything you wanted to say about
Yeah. No, I'm feeling
Copilot?
good. I think that was an
Awesome.
interesting discussion, and there's
I think so too.
no right or wrong answer here, but good to be aware of the stuff.
And I think ethics is a big part of that. You know, I think by having these conversations and by calling out the people, especially those in the positions of power and privilege, to say, just because you're the number one open source company, you know,
Yeah.
you know what I mean.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
And then also looking at this through the lens of what are people's journeys through the open source world, right? Why is it just the maintainers that get it for free? We want to be
Yeah.
enabling and empowering people, you know, on across that full spectrum, right? Because otherwise we start segmenting our industry into these different classes, and that's not That's not good. No, let's check out some data stuff. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Um,
Is it cool if I drive today?
yes. The one thing I wanted to do with the data stuff was I wanted to show it in Excel form because I think that's the easiest way to understand it. So maybe let me do that kind of overview bit, and then
Sure.
let's get you driving to start hacking on it. Give me
Exciting.
a second here.
Take your time. So you've got a bunch of the data in Excel form that we're going to showcase to folks, and then we're going to do some coding with it.
Exactly. So let me just open this up.
Take your time. So we're going to Taylor's going to share his screen shortly, and then we'll come back to mine. So another thing I love, like in case you're curious, you can see in the top right there, we're using a platform called StreamYard to do our streaming, and it's cool because it's all in the browser, no complicated software involved. We're just hanging out in what is it? Oh, I think your
Sorry,
screen share just wrong
I hit
window.
I hit the wrong button.
All good, all good.
Cool. And I think it's still showing yours. Yeah, can we switch it out? There we go.
Yep.
So what we've been doing to kind of connect the ops stuff with making this data available, we've essentially built a pipeline, right? So we have
Right.
lots of great data on a shipment by shipment basis, but we're doing so much shipping, like it just doesn't stop. We keep growing on that front, so it's been hard to round that data up, right? So now we've built this Excel-based pipeline which imports data from each shipment spreadsheet, and then does some transformations and things. We like doing this because it gives us a chance to build essentially a domain model in Excel and get our ops folks and our admin folks to contribute to that more easily. And then we can take the results of that and export them. And over time, we can kind of upgrade that pipeline to more of a tech-based approach. So what's cool is like we have all the formulas in Excel. Sorry about that. If we wanted to replace that pipeline, we just feed in the data at an earlier stage and have the code do the calculations instead of Excel doing that. What we got here today is a number of data exports. We had to clean some things up, like the sending and receiving groups. We don't necessarily have permission to share that info publicly. We want to respect people's privacy, so we've taken that out. But this is, a good example of our export here. And what it does is it lists the line items. It lists the line items from all of these different shipments, right? So you can see here's the shipment number column. In this case, we have like clothing, shoes. Sometimes we have more information on like the size. Here we have a tent that's for 4 people. And then this is kind of the main sheet. It stitches together other data. So we have data on what would these items cost if you just went to Walmart and bought them yourself, right? Or, eventually want to have needs met data as well. I don't think that pipeline is quite set up, but how many human needs are we meeting on each of these aid shipments? We also have a number of supporting databases. So like I mentioned, there's the, our price list. Essentially, we go to Walmart, we look up, the Walmart brand, kind of a reasonable, low cost, price for each item. Sometimes you get packs. So like baby wipes, you'll get, a pack of 64. So each wipe is 3 cents. This kind of dollar per unit helps us normalize the cost. So if we have different sizes, we can still come up with a number, right? And then we have some interesting financial conversion data. I'm less concerned about currencies at this point, more of the GDP conversions. This helps keep us honest, right? Because the cost of something at Walmart in the US is going to be different than the cost of something at, Ramon's grocery store in Austria. It's going to be different than the cost of something in Lebanon, because
Right.
these economies have different, kind of purchasing powers and things like that. So we're able to assess the pricing using this kind of Walmart pricing data set, and then we can use the GDP per capita ratios to transform that and look at things like the end value to beneficiary. Like in the country you're in, how much economic value did we create for the people that we're sending aid to, right? Or we can do things like look at what would that value be in your country if someone's visiting our website and wants, to get more of a feeling of what impact we made. One good way to do that is to show the prices, relative if they're from the UK to what those items would cost in the UK in that economy, right? Because looking at Lebanon, we don't have a good sense for what the economy of Lebanon is like, just being an average website visitor. So yeah, there's a lot of great data here, and I think we can do a lot of cool stuff with it. And what's nice is it's a pipeline now. So every month we can upload the latest versions. We're always fiddling with stuff. I wouldn't say don't draw any conclusions off of our current data, but we're continuing to refine it and we're continuing to add to it and go back and gather data from our historical shipments. So that is kind of the overview there. I'm going to turn it
That's
back
super
to
cool.
you, Ron.
Yeah, I'll share my screen again, and I'm curious. So we have that all in spreadsheet form. How does that come over into our website then? I guess that's what we're going to be doing next.
Absolutely. So what we do, the easiest way to get it in there was we found a Google Sheets to JSON converter. So we run it through
Oh
that
yeah,
tool, and then Adele is just making pull requests through the GitHub interface, which is really cool.
amazing.
So the data ends up going into content, the content folder. Then we have a data folder inside of there.
Look at that. Oh,
Yep.
and that's all. Wow, look at that. That's a lot
Lots
of
of
data.
data. Yep. Yeah, I think for we have a couple years of financial conversions. We have, 900 items that we've gone and manually researched the prices for from
Wow,
Walmart. Lots of good stuff there.
awesome. So we're going to be taking this JSON data and integrating it into the site.
Exactly. And like I said, I was working with my buddy Jake, who got really into this. So we actually have a solid PR with some initial steps. So we might want to start by reviewing that and just kind of seeing
Good.
what Jake's been able to do with the data there.
So this would be this one here.
Yep.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Let's make the data even more. Oh, let's take a look. So this is where Code C were extremely kind to give us the tools to be able to understand and review our code more quickly. So what I'm going to be doing here is opening up our Code C map. Oh, sorry, you're leading, not me.
Oh, no, go for it. I'm actually going to grab another glass of water real quick. I'll be right back.
Yeah, go for it. I need to log in. I think. Yes. So through my GitHub, I can log into DistributeApe's Code C account, and that'll allow me to connect to GitHub. That will allow me to review this pull request. So let's open up this map again. Yeah. So we've got the ability to add comments here. And what you see here is a map with a visualization of which files have changed in this pull request. So yellow means modified and green is new. So we've got a new page called Viz, which I'm guessing is short for visualization.
Yep. Yeah, Jake just set up
Look at that.
a page to mess around on, right? Kind of play
Nice.
around with the data without it, messing anything else up. So that's what we see here. And it's a fairly standard React page right now. It's just listing out the different value for each line item, I believe.
Yeah.
So we can actually go see that page and what it's doing if we just add a /viz to the end of our URL there. We have to kind of manually navigate to the page.
So I want to do that here. Nope.
One to your left, I think. Like if you go to the running server just to see
Oh,
what the
but
page
this is
doing
on.
right now.
Oh, I need to check out the branch.
Yeah, we might need to yarn install and restart the server and stuff.
All good. Good. remote, I think. Oh, git branch. Bar. So that would be database. So I'll just test it real quick. Oh yeah, definitely need to restart the GraphQL server. And what's cool about this is all just going on Gitpod as if it were, running locally on my machine. So I'll just do a quick yarn install, and then we can get up and running again. Yeah. Since I'm in charge this time, it's a little harder for me to coordinate, but I still have access to
Nice.
music. Remember? For
Our
context,
lovely.
our lovely stream chill music. So for context, on on StreamYard, we've had access to like copyright free music. Oh, and we're good. So we'll stop the tunes. So we'll do a yarn dev, and that will get us up and running again. Yeah, and so what we're going to see here is this new visualization page, and I guess from there, what we can start doing is making our own visualizations.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I think there's lots of things that can be done here. There's certainly some stuff that we'll get into about, how do we get the data into Gatsby's GraphQL,
Yeah,
in a nice way, right? So that kind of builds on the work that you and I were doing for the regions pages,
yeah,
and looking at some of those kind of Gatsby transformers and things like that. And then I think that's like, if you're interested in manipulating the data and presenting it nicely and stuff, that's a great place to make some contributions. And then I think that on the output side, there's lots of cool things we can do, right? So visualization certainly comes to mind. Can we have a map showing where we've shipped from or to? Can we highlight different countries and show the end value to beneficiary, things like that? But we can also build some tools that would be incredibly helpful for our team, right?
mm,
So this is just the values. I think Jake selected any line item over 10,000, and we were just printing out the values here.
okay.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can see that in the map then. Uh, line items. Ah, yeah, here. So we use GraphQL to BigQuery line items, filter with value greater than 10,000. Cool.
Yep.
Oh, that's straightforward. Let's so that's reviewed in my opinion.
Yep.
We'll return to our map and review the rest.
So this gets into transform nodes. We were doing this in Gatsby node.js.
Yeah.
And then we had a contributor who refactored that out, right? So we didn't end up with a massive. So now we have a Gatsby folder with some of their callback functions. And what Jake added here was just like with the regions, kind of transforming it from a markdown node to a DA region node, which had a bit more support, and gives us a chance to kind of like change the types and things of different items. We're doing the same thing. So he's reading from this combined manifest JSON file, and then creating these DA line item nodes to represent the data there. And you can see there's some error checking. So it's saying, hey, if the value is not nan, like says we don't necessarily have a value for every item that we've shipped just yet, we might need to add some more to that data set. And I think he's also converting the value from a string to an integer. So that way we can just use the GraphQL, like you saw him do the greater than or something, which would not necessarily work for string comparison.
Perfect.
Yeah. So this would be the place if anyone wants to, to add on to it, and continue to transform and manipulate the data going into GraphQL. You're going to want to look at that Gatsby transformers file there.
And that's where we added this package, Gatsby transformer JSON. That looks good.
Yep.
And here we've integrated Gatsby transformer JSON into the Gatsby configuration. And
Yep.
I'm gonna go ahead. Oh, there we go. And I'm gonna go ahead and assume we did a yarn install. Oh wow, that's actually pretty. Normally, I expect these diffs to be much bigger,
Yeah.
so that's good. So that's reviewed. I'm gonna go ahead and approve this.
Cool.
Right?
That sounds good. I'm not sure if Jake's ready to merge it in just yet. I think he wanted to keep
Yeah.
building on that branch, but we can certainly, approve it, and then if he pushes other changes, we can just review those.
But so if we want to use this, we'll probably have to branch off from this branch.
Yeah, totally. We could certainly merge it in if we wanted to, or folks can, I'd say contact us if you're interested in using this data and working on the visualizations. Like we're just getting
Please.
started with it. We don't have issues up, so it's a little bit, rough and tumble. So just hit Ramon or me or Distributed up on Twitter.
There's the banners down there.
Yeah, create an issue in GitHub, comment on something, get in touch with us, and we can help get you set up to hack on this data. I'd say that's where we're at right now.
Totally.
But definitely do want people to work on it. And like I said, there's lots of directions. You have your visualizations. We can also build tooling in to validate the data, right? It can be hard looking at these massive Excel sheets to figure out what's missing data, or what data looks off or something like that. So we could
Yeah.
build in some tooling just to consume the JSON and say, oh, it looks like here's some issues that the ops team or the admin team has to go touch up, right? Here are the missing line items that we got to go look up on Walmart or whatever.
Yeah. So this looks great, and I'm so glad that we have a way to be able to turn that. So you and sorry, what you said, your buddy Jake?
Yeah, Jake.
Are going to continue working on this.
Yeah, I think if we wanted to hack on it today, we could always contribute to Jake's PR. And something that might be nice is to just show an example of using the data visualization library that we have. So can we just kind of take something simple that he's already got going and plug it into a visualization, just as to serve as an example for creating these visualizations?
Awesome. Yeah, let's do it.
Cool. So I would say what we want to do first is go take a look at Nivo, Nivo. That's the visualization library that we have installed, and we should kind of plan out what visualization we want to add.
So that's MIVO.
N as in oh gosh, I don't know why nuclear war just came to mind, but so we're on island, folks.
Nivo NPM, NIVO. I think I got it.
Perfect.
Yeah, there we go. Supercharge React components to easily build database apps. Ooh, that's exciting.
Exactly. So a bit higher level than D3 or processing or some of the other libraries. I think it's using D3 here, but it's a bit more plug and play.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and check out their component playground. Let's just see like what sort of visualizations are available to us, and then maybe we can use that.
Oh, wow. Okay, I don't want to criticize too much, but the accessibility buff in me is not loving the
yes, a little bit hard
what's
to
it
see.
called? Yeah, the color contrast.
Yeah,
which is unfortunate. But yeah, so we've got an option here of different visualizations. Sorry, folks. I'm gonna see if I can make it a little bigger. It's very fancy. It's a fancy design, but not very legible, I'm afraid.
yeah, that's true. Maybe once we click in, it'll get a bit better. I'm thinking something simple here. So we have value data from line items. We might be able to get the shipping year. Give me 1 second. I just want to take a look at what data is actually available to us.
Yeah.
So we have shipping year. We don't have month or anything though. Maybe what we could do is show something like how much aid per category that we're doing, right? That would be easy. We have a list of categories. We have the values of those categories for each line item. We could just say, hey, let's do a simple pie chart or something else like that, and show the categories.
This is very. I love it. Ooh, ooh.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
I get
they
it.
might have an example here where there's like a bit more of an interactive one where there's two layers, where if you like highlight the category, it then shows another partial, you know, thing, which allows you
Hmm.
to see like the items in that category or something.
There's definitely like callbacks when you click, but that's not what you mean, right?
No, if you go look at the recipes there, I think I saw a default recipe on one of these. Just down below that kind of the code bit you got there.
Oh yeah. Oops,
Yeah.
I went too fast there. Do adding a metric layer? No, that's not right. Do this one? That's not right either. So you mean like something like this?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I thought I saw one. Can you go back to the kind of overview page there? It might
This
have
one
been a
here.
slightly different one. Yeah.
Oh, sunburst.
Sunburst. Yeah, yeah. So what we can do is have the inner layer be like each category, and then the outer layer be each item in that category, if that makes sense.
Yeah, this sounds involved. I like it. Let's do it.
Let's try it out. Let's at least try to get the category bit going, and then that
Yeah,
might be a good next step for someone to work on.
cool. So it's okay that do you feel comfortable in us branching off of DataViz and then merging back in?
Yeah, it seems like a good way to do it, and that
Yeah,
way we're not pushing directly. We can kind of respect Jake's space there, but still
exactly.
contribute to his PR.
So we git checkout branch feature category aid shipment category
Yeah,
visual with a Z Asian. There we go. Cool.
sweet. And I am having a little bit with the banner there, Ramon. It's blocking the bottom, so I can't see when
Oh,
you're typing in commands.
sorry. Thank you. Let me. Um, yeah, let's remove the banner. I think people got the point. Point stats. I'm also gonna hide our faces so that we have more screen real estate for a bit.
Sweet.
So we're still here, folks. We're just letting the code speak for itself. Cool.
Cool.
Yeah. Sorry.
All good. So I think where we want to start is let's go ahead and open up Gatsby and the Gatsby transformer file. So it's going to be in a folder. We have a Gatsby folder now
Yeah.
for some of this stuff. Transform nodes, and let's go scroll down to where Jake was setting up some of these DA line items. Make sure that category and other info is in there, right? So that's going to be at the very ends there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think what we want to do is make an object essentially, right? We have 4 data points to define items. So if wanted to make something called like item on the create node in that node that we're creating,
This one
and
here.
then set that up. Yeah, just under the node data there on line 95.
Yeah. Oh, I see. I see.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm a little bit distracted and entertained that our type is called the line item.
Oh, DA line item.
I
Yeah. You
know.
might
I
want to
know.
capitalize the A there maybe to keep it
No, no, no,
consistent
no, no.
with
It's
other
totally
stuff.
cool. It's totally cool.
Yeah.
Sorry. Carry on. So
Um,
value and shipment, and so we want to
yeah. So
have.
we'll create something called item here, and that'll be an object.
So we want a variable. Oh,
Yeah. We could set it up ahead of time. I would do that inside the if statement. Or actually, no. Maybe it makes sense outside. I'm not sure.
oh, I'm just going off the fact that we have the value here, but like if we have the value, then we probably have access to the item. So why not?
Yeah.
Yeah, that way we're
Um,
consistent with this.
yeah, that sounds good. So let's make that an object, and then we'll fill in the fields as we go. So the first one is going to be category, and that should just be node. It gets kind of weird with the naming here. I think that's just category with a capital C because it's kind of pulling that from our Excel headers. We might clean those Excel headers up at some point. The next one is going to be item. Same thing, item with a capital I. And then we have age/gender. So if anyone has naming conventions for this, this would be things like boys' clothing or a child's sleeping bag
Oh,
or something.
would it be? I don't know, because I would have said fit, but no.
Yeah, maybe we can just call it age/gender, right?
Is that?
Yep. And that's going to be node. We're going to select age space slash space gender.
Got it. Both capitalized.
Both capitalized. Yep. And then the last kind of item distinction is size style.
And I assume it's going to be the same
Yep.
size. That.
Great. So that should allow us to distinguish items on a unique basis. Basically, if all four of those data points match, it's the same item. If they don't match, it could be a shirt, but a men's shirt versus like a kid's shirt, or a medium shirt versus an extra large shirt. So yeah, we've added it to the node there. That looks pretty good. And I think at this point we can let's let's go ahead and restart the server, and we can use the GraphQL interface to make sure that our changes made it into
Oh
the
yeah.
GraphQL layer. Yep.
So we need to restart the server, right?
We do need to restart the server when we're changing the Gatsby stuff.
Makes sense. So is that? No, not that. The build portion always takes a little while.
Takes a little while. We're working on making it faster. We just got to cut out all the old contentful stuff at some point.
There we go. So we can
Sweet.
access here GraphQL. Let me just make this a little larger.
Yep. And then if we go search for all DA line item on the left there, we can just expand that. Let's go ahead and select nodes from there. And we can select shipment and value, but the items are not coming up. So
Oh yeah.
I think what we might need to do there is to restart the server again, and let's run a yarn clean. I think what's happening is that Gatsby's trying to be smart and cache the results. And so it's actually kind of skipping over this transform step since it already has done that transformation and the data source hasn't changed. But we're changing the data we're pulling out of that data source.
That sounds like you know this from
A minute to
experience.
figure out what was going on. We're like, why is it wasn't even running the transformer code, so we weren't getting console logs or anything. And then we're like, oh, it's not running it because it's trying to do this caching thing. But that messes us up when we add data to something that's already cached.
There we go.
Sweet. There we go. Let's try it again.
Again, refresh this. There it is.
Ah, there we go. And so we can select all four of those. Awesome.
Fire that off.
Yep.
And there we go.
There we go. Cool. So now we can go
all that data.
back to Jake's data viz page there.
Mm-hmm. So that would be. Can I do
it's going to be
command P?
source/pages, I think. Perfect. And let's take a look at that GraphQL query at the end.
At the bottom.
Yeah. So I think in this case, we can go ahead and take that filter off.
Okay.
Actually, rather than messing with his, let's add a new query bit. So what we can do is on line 38, I believe. we can just namespace it. We don't need a second query. We can build it into the first query here.
Ah, oh, I see. I see. So that would be line here. No,
Yeah, if we
that would need to be
want it
inside.
inside of that, yeah, there we go. And so let's namespace it. Let's call this like category viz.
How's this?
Yeah, that's great. And we're going to query all DA line item just like Jake has. I don't think we need to sort it or anything like that unless we find out that that's going to make our lives easier for the visualization. So let's just focus on pulling the data for now. Or do you think it makes sense to sort it by category maybe?
Um. Hmm. We will need to group it by category. Can you do grouping in GraphQL?
Quite possibly. Let's go back to the GraphQL Explorer and see what that allows us to do in terms of summing up based on a field value or something.
Yeah. I guess for now we can try it out and then see how it looks.
Yeah, sure. So let's add our nodes layer. And then what we care about here is the value.
Item.
Yeah, we want it's just gonna be called item,
value.
no S, right? Yeah, so value, and then we also want item, and we want the category from the item.
Like that.
Perfect. So we'll need to scroll up and adjust our props there. That's gonna be the category data viz or category viz item or something.
Yeah, category viz items. This is cool. This is value number item. Oh, I might actually turn this into several lines. This is
category. It's gonna be a string.
Oh yeah.
And then at the end there, to wrap nodes, so the next line down, we'll just want brackets. I think is that, yep. There we go. So it's an array of different nodes there. So that looks pretty solid. And now on line 21, we can get that data together.
That's so cool. Okay.
Great. And this might be a good point to go to the Viz page and run a CodeC recording just to make sure we're grabbing the right data from category Viz items.
Good call. Oh. GraphQL syntax error.
Do we need a comma maybe after the line items? Huh.
Could it be I have those brackets? You know what? Maybe the easiest way to go about this is to use the REPL.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's have a look. Expected name found, closing bracket.
I think it might be the DA line items. Yeah, if you just take that away. No?
Name found a dot. Huh.
Oh, you don't need a colon. You don't need a colon after nodes for GraphQL syntax. It's not the same as JavaScript's literal objects.
You can tell I don't write a lot of GraphQL.
Yeah.
I did 2 Mondays ago give an introduction to GraphQL workshop.
Nice. Oh, and be careful. You didn't copy the query bit there. So you want to, when you paste that in, put it inside the Viz query bit.
Thank you.
Or just copy the whole thing.
It's safe.
There we go.
Good. So
Cool.
sorry. Just need to
No,
sneeze
no
real quick.
worries. This is how dev happens. It's lots of small trials and errors, right?
There we
Cool.
go.
So
Excuse
let's
me.
go to slash viz. Perfect.
Oh, go to
And we're
record.
not going to see any changes on the screen, but that's okay. We don't need to write a bunch of logging code or whatever. We can just record it in CodeC here.
Yeah, and what CodeC, what we're doing here with CodeC, who are not only providing us with the great review tools, they're also providing us with this recording technology, which allows us to inspect our code as it executes.
Exactly.
It's really handy.
Yeah. So now we just gotta scroll down to the part where it's instantiating our Viz page there. So that's loading, um, and yeah, there we go. I think.
Oh yeah, there it is.
Yep. So we want to jump to the execution. That's the loading bit. That'll take us down to where it's executing, and now we can see up there. There's our category Viz items. So we have this array of
Perfect.
nodes, and each node has a value and the items category. That looks good.
Perfect. Perfect. Cool. Let's visualize it then. So for
Yeah, that
that,
sounds
we
good.
will need to install this library, right?
So it's already installed, but we
Oh,
should go back
great.
to their example. I think if we work based on their example, they give us some sample code and stuff. We can see how to create a visualization instance there.
Fantastic. It's really handy that they have this for us. Oh, look at that. Put that in. Sunburst. Yeah, let's just go ahead and plop all of that in.
Yeah, I think we don't need the my response. Yeah, we'll take a look. We'll see.
Oh, sorry. Which one? Oh, you mean like having it be its own function? Yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah, I think we can just take the responsive sunburst JSX element there
Yeah.
and plop that into our existing kind of page function.
Okay. Oh, inside the section. There we go.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
maybe in a
actually.
separate section. Let's try to separate that a bit
Oh, okay.
from Jake's bit, so we can just add it on
Sure.
top or something like that, or on the bottom.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Perfect.
I'll paste it in just like that, and then I'll let Prettier take care of it. So the data here will be our category this items dot nodes dot item.
Probably
No,
just nodes. We
sorry,
need
no.
some sort of array of something here. So we got to figure out what that data looks like for them, and we might need to do some transformations. What are the other options, real quick? It looks like there's some styling stuff which we can leave in there.
I'm very sorry, Taylor. I'll be right back. Just need to do one thing.
Yeah, no worries. Should I share my screen real quick and pick up from
Oh
you?
yeah, go
Need
for
a
it.
bit
Go
of a
for it.
break here.
Very sorry. Cool.
Sweet.
It's all yours. I'll
So
be right back.
cool. This is a nice thing about Gitbod is I can just hop right on here. So we're gonna go to source pages, and we got our Viz page here. And give me a shout, y'all, if you're having trouble seeing. I think the font's fine, but please do let me know. So just looking at this ID, let's go ahead and call that like value by category, and we're counting
Sorry about that.
um, dollars. Got some background, some default colors and stuff. We can configure all this.
What I
And
don't see is where the data is being accessed. Like what data is being displayed, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So we got to look at their example again, maybe. Do you want me to turn it back over to you?
Sure, sounds good.
Cool.
Let me, yeah, there we go. Cool. Thank you for indenting it correctly. So,
No worries.
how about just, there it is. It's under value.
Yeah.
But why is it dollars?
No, I think that's just a label or something like that, right? So I think the data, we have to pass data into that data field, which right now is set to
Oh,
category viz items.nodes, but I'm not sure what
yeah, I think I
format
see
they
it
want the
here.
data in. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's the ad. It's the property that's being accessed. So, just a hunch. Gonna give
Ah,
this a try.
okay.
Let's try item dot category. No idea if this is gonna work. Let's give it a try. Oh, need to move. Yeah. Okay. Do a quick refresh here. So the page is rendering.
Nothing's showing up. The page is rendering.
Oh,
The component
ooh,
is
ooh.
not.
Each child in the oh no, that's a warning.
Yeah, it's gonna be on Jake's code because he's mapping through stuff and didn't add a key there.
Right.
So it could be a couple of things. We might need to set an explicit width and height for the component or the container there, right?
Hmm.
Um, for it to fill. I'm not sure. And then I wonder for the item dot category, that's how we want to group our different things. But the actual value that we're putting in
Oh
there
yeah.
is just item dot val or is going to be like value, right? It's the node dot value.
Yeah, maybe I should come back here, huh?
Yeah. Do they have their data if you scroll down in that code bit? Are they? Oh, there on the. Maybe we
Oh,
can expand the chart data. Take a look.
it has children.
Right. So let's look at the data format on the just to the left of your cursor there. Um,
Oh, this is gonna be a little more involved than I thought.
yeah. So I don't think we need to worry about the children so much right now. That might be true if we want the multi-layered sunburst eventually, but for now it looks like we just need to have a an ID and a value. So we just need to probably write a like a map or something like that, map over our line item data and put it in this format, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, it does. It does. It does. So here at the top, we will have a const. Let's call this categorized with a Z. Um, Viz items. Is that all right?
Yeah, that sounds good.
So that's category Viz item. Oh, sorry, I'm not. I'm driving, not navigating.
No, 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 go for it. Go for it. I think we're not strict about the driving navigating thing. Like
You're too patient with me.
I don't need to tell
Um,
you how to write a map function, or at least the syntax for it.
I don't know why, but I love writing map functions. I find them very satisfying.
For sure.
So
For sure.
this
So that'll give us like the
is
line item data or something, right? We'll get the value and the item.
go with any for now. and
Yeah, I
this
think it
will,
uses type inference actually. We don't need to specify the any because it'll infer the type based on the props that we've already
yeah,
specified. Yeah,
I did not know that.
cool.
Um, and we'll need what is it? An object?
Yeah, I think we
It's
want an array of objects with this kind of
actually I think
ID and value properties.
it
Is
looks
that what
like
they
it's
get at?
a no. Look, it's an object, like a parent object made up of a
Yeah.
series of children, and those children can have children. So it's an object made. It's like a recursively structured object.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. So, but I think it could also just be. I wonder if it could just be like an array of objects, or if we need that parent wrapper. We essentially right now, I think we can just focus on making that first layer of children, and then we can always add this if we need to kind of like have a wrapper object around it, if that makes sense.
Yes. So what we'd have here is a const. Let's call it. Oh wait, so we're not mapping really. We're gonna loop and build up this object.
But I think we can do a map, right? We could do a map and then. Oh, I see what you're saying.
You know what I mean? Because
Yeah,
that,
so each category would be a layer, and then we'd put the value data for all the category items in there.
yeah. Ooh, this is gonna be more involved than I thought. But good to have.
Yeah,
And then we can extract that into a util or something, or a type.
yeah, something like that. So what do we want here? What's our structure? We want basically the outer layer is going to be each category, right? And then the inner layer is going to be line items that fall into that category.
So we would say each. So if there, I think I've done this before in TypeScript, and I know I'm going to make this terrible. So I'm going to try. If I may.
Okay.
If let's say uh, const existing. No, this is going to be a let existing category equals categories dot find, and we're going to find the one category where the category dot name matches the line item data dot item dot category.
Yeah.
Right. So what we're doing here is looking that up.
Yeah.
A couple of these. Category. This is
That's gonna
it's
be a string, right?
no, no. It's going to be an object of this structure of the
Okay.
structure. So I'll call it any for now. I know that's not a good thing to do.
It's okay.
Property find does not exist on type. Oh, categories. Oh, wait, that's silly of me. Uh, right. If we want to find something in in an object, we just want to look it up like this, right? What is it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Categories line item data dot item dot category.
Yeah.
However, it could be nil.
That's true. I think we can get around that if we just pre-populate our categories. So when we do categories
Oh, that's
equals right now
brilliant.
as a blank object, we could write a reduce function, right? And basically say, let's make entries for every category. Then we can go add data to each of those categories.
Yep, brilliant. So,
So I want to do like category viz items dot nodes dot reduce.
love this stuff. Oh, that's a node. And that would be Oh, it's node and I always forget which one is which one's which parameter.
Right. Let me look it up. JS reduce.
I'm glad I'm not the only one who always forgets the order of these.
Yep. So the accumulator is on the left-hand side and the current value is on the right-hand side. So we're going to reduce, current object on the left and then node on the right.
And
Cool.
this
And then at the end there, after that last bracket on line 25, we'll want to specify like our starting current object, which in this case will just be an empty object. That's what you're going for, right? Where each category then has like a JS value or something in there.
Exactly. What's going on? Maybe I'll write it first and then we'll see what
That's fair.
happens. Or
So essentially what we can do here is just say like current object and then brackets and then the category name.
yes.
Right, so it'd be node dot item dot category. And then that can just equal an empty object, right?
Yeah. Right.
It'll collaborate if there's multiple items that have the same category, but since we're just writing an empty object every time, we don't need error checking or anything like that.
I mean, we can already pre-populate it, right?
Yeah, we could.
With the ID and the value. Yes.
Yep.
Wait, why does the value have to be a number? Oh, that's the number of objects. That's the number of children, right? The value. So the ID.
I think the value in this case, like in their example, it's lines of code. In our example, it would be maybe like the sum of all the line items or something.
Right. Which will be dynamic.
So yeah. So want to do like
this?
Yeah, something like that to structure it initially. That seems pretty good. And then we can go in and kind of like add to that value and stuff over time in our loop below. Wow.
There we go.
That made it work really well.
Awesome. So then what we can do, sorry, I'm just going to turn on the light. I just realized it's getting pretty dark in here. It's better.
Cool. And I do want to check in with you, Ramon. It is 3. Do we want to keep going here for a little bit? Or do we need to start winding it down?
I can do a little more, yeah.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah. Thank you for checking in. Yeah,
totally.
So I got caught up in this. So let's
It's exciting, right? Like
I love this stuff. I seriously can't get enough of it. So
cool.
Line item data. So now the current object. Oh no, it's not current object anymore. It's called categories. At the line item data dot item dot category dot value will be plus equals the line item data dot value.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And the cat. You know what? This already needs a variable. Const. This. Much better.
Just be careful. You added 2 single quotes. Yeah, there you go.
And the category dot children will have this. Hold on. We're pushing an object of the same structure.
Yep.
So that'll be an object or ID line item data dot value. No. What?
No.
Oh, that's where we
Um,
need more Gatsby data.
for what?
For the line item data, because right now we're just getting the category, but now we also need stuff like just how do I bring up the, do
Oh,
you know what I mean? It's not,
yeah.
just give it a refresh.
Yeah, I just refresh it. Maybe it's
Yeah.
down below on your left if it's like responsive or something. That's weird.
Explorer.
There we go.
Uh, right, because we want item. Now we've got item, size, style, age, gender, and so
Yep.
I think item is a string. Is that correct?
Yeah, item is a string.
Yeah, so I figure we can get that.
Yeah. Yeah, we might as well just grab all
Okay.
of those, right?
Size, I already forgot.
Size style.
Thank you. Cool.
Cool. And let's just make sure to add those to our props.
Yep.
Those will all be strings.
Size, style, singular.
Cool.
So then, so now we have access to it essentially.
Yep. Yep.
So that would be ID item. Value will be
Just that line item
yeah,
data dot value.
value, and the children will always be
Yeah.
cool. I think.
So
Yep.
this looks pretty solid. What I would want to do now is do another code C recording and see what categorized viz items ends up looking like. And then we can kind of compare that to the structure that Nevo expects.
Sounds good. That's very oh, there's a word for that.
Trying to be proactive about making sure our data lines up.
Yeah, yeah. That's very I don't know what the word is. That's very, oh, I'll try doing that again. Sorry, like the word, you know that feeling was when the word
Yeah.
escapes you.
Yeah.
It's something like well thought out, but that's not quite what I'm getting at. Thoughtful? No. Strategic? No. Doesn't matter.
Suggestions from the chat. Help Ramon find his word.
Okay, so we've got categorized viz items. Oh, see, this is why we do it.
Yep.
So what happened? We did a map. We didn't want to do a map.
No, I wanted to do a for each.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep, that's it. So we don't actually assign. We don't even want to assign this to a variable because we've already got our categories object.
Yep.
So that's for, and that's why we do this. In fact,
Yeah,
we
the
already do
rest of
that
that looks
here.
fine.
Yeah, nice. So create that recording. Stop the recording. OSS.tx. And we want to jump down to our execution. We're here.
Yeah, that looks right. The category is there right by your. Yeah, there we go.
I
So
don't think
if
they're
we
gonna have the
open,
I don't think we're gonna see the children here yet, but that looks pretty good. Oh, hold on.
oh, I gotcha.
Is it?
Yeah, yeah. So at least our starting structure for the different categories is solid. We've confirmed
Um,
that for sure.
I'm actually, I don't think so.
No.
Let me just confirm something real quick, because no, look, it's an object. I Taylor, I'm very sorry. You were right. It's an object made up of an array of these. No.
I think what it's doing is it just kind of like what we have there is we have the initial children, right? You see that children, and that's definitely an array of those objects. So our categories is that initial children, but it's kind of wrapping all of that in the overall Nevo object. So what we need to do is just create another object after categories, which is like Nevo data or something like that. And then set categories as the initial children,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah. I'm I'm a bit sorry. I'm a bit thrown off by the fact that they have a key. You know.
Yeah, 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 yeah. No, I
Look.
see what you're saying because it was an array of objects. But I think what we can do is
Oh, I see
is we
what you
can
mean.
just
Yes. Sorry.
so I think the key is really helpful when we're stitching this together. And then I think if we just build up the final object after the category viz items nodes for each, right? So we can just get the values right from a JS object. There's like a object.values or something like that, and that'll give us an array
Yeah.
of objects without that key bit. So let's just make one final
Perfect.
object here, for the kind of visualization wrapper.
So the ID will be Nevo. Oh, what's it again? The value is
Yeah,
there's
there's no value for that,
there's a
and
color.
then there's children.
And then children will be object dot values categories. Does that
Yeah,
look right?
that looks right.
Do we
So
wanna do another recording just in case?
yeah, I think that's healthy.
Okay. Okay. Let's see what we got. So Nevo data.
This is going to be the
Oh,
very bottom one there. That looks correct. So we got our children, which is an array of objects. Then each
yeah,
child
this
has
looks
a,
solid.
yep, sweet. So let's try plugging that into the JSS object.
I'm excited.
Yep. And we still might need to set an explicit width and a height.
Oh yeah, you said.
Like, I think if we inspect, we might see that it's like a size 0 element right now. I think it expands to fill its container. So we can do some styles on that first section right there. Yeah, if you
Oh
open that up. And so it's saying width and height is 100%, but if section doesn't have a width and height applied to it, then there's no there's no 100% to fill.
So we
Yeah,
want
I
to
think
add some
maybe class name. Yeah, and let me go look this up for
class name, of course.
set width and height. We're using Tailwind. This should be pretty easy. There we go. And let's make it big here. So we can do H-96 and W-96. It'll give us a pretty big visualization. We might need to pare that down. Okay. So we got space for it. Are there any console errors or anything? No, nothing that we wouldn't expect.
Okay. Let's check out those elements again.
So it looks like it's making the SGV viz. So that's good.
Yeah. Huh.
Huh.
So the question is then, why don't we see anything?
Yeah.
Nevo data. Oh, wait, value. This is still wrong.
Yeah.
I messed that up. What is it again? The value would be lock. We don't have a lock. Oh, we do.
LOC, that's lines of code. I think for us, we just called it value, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So we can just say value is value.
Value is value. That's it. That's how it.
Yay! Oh my gosh, we
Look
got
at that.
stuff.
Look at that.
There's a lot going on there. So I would say to simplify this, let's not do the two children thing for now. I think that's probably messing it up because there's lots of different line items. So in our for each function, we can just comment out that line where we're adding each line item as a child.
Yeah. This one here.
Yeah. Yeah, let's just focus if we just do the categories by themselves.
I don't really know what's going on here.
Yeah. Did you refresh it? Is this like the refreshed view?
Yeah. So these are just the categories now.
Huh. Weird.
Let me make it a little bigger just in case. Let's go with 100.
Yeah. So for Tailwind, that's where you start to get into like proportions of the screen. So we could do something like W equals full, and maybe even H equals screen, something like that. Or I'm sorry, W dash full H dash screen. That'll give us the full initial viewport, pretty much. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I wonder why it's
Wow, that
doing
is.
that. It's not doing that here. Is it? No.
No, yeah.
It's odd.
That's weird. I think we could try to simplify some of the stuff. Like, let's start stripping out some of the nice theming things they have. There might be something in there which is
Oh,
causing it
yeah.
to try to like expand and simplify, and then we can add those back in.
Good
So
call.
I'd say like anything that's not necessary to show the visualization, let's take it out, and then we can go look at those different commands and add them back in one at a time.
Good call. Oh, I think I
There
just.
might be more in there. Yeah. Like the child color. Let's just
radius margin. Oh, hold on. ID is ID.
There
Hey,
we go. That looks a lot better.
that was a bug on our end. My bad.
Yeah.
Actually, if this is working, do you mind if I bring the children back?
Yeah, yeah, totally. So as you can see, I think right now with the children, since we're adding,
Whoops. Sorry.
oh, good, adding every line item, that's going to be a lot. What we could do is have a second layer of grouping things, right? So we have the categories, then we have items. So maybe we don't want to add every line item as a child, but we want to bundle things up by category in the outer layer, and then category plus item on the inner layer, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Good call. But I think for now we can. Cause I'm getting a little bit tired. I hope you don't mind.
Yeah, no,
I'm gonna
totally.
start
That's a
wrapping up.
good next step. If anyone on the stream wants to hack on it, let's go
Yeah.
ahead
Let's.
and hide the children for now. I think
Yeah.
that if we hide the children, let's get that committed and pushed. And I'm inspired. I might even
This
play around
is
with this a little bit.
this is this is gorgeous.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
want to theme it with like the DA colors and everything.
Yep. And something you can absolutely do. I love the information we're already getting from it. Like for example, seeing that 82% of all of the products are hygiene
Yeah,
related.
and that's going to be, since we're doing it based on value. We had this in-kind donation of a couple million masks, so we sent like 1.5 million masks to Lebanon, and those were worth quite a bit. I think if we do this, but instead of showing the dollar value, we show the item counts, which we also have data for. Those
Yeah.
ratios are going to change, right? And so it kind of gets into the, what are we measuring? Are we measuring number of items? Are we measuring the value of those items? Things like that. Right.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, let's commit this.
Yeah. Exciting
So
stuff though, for sure.
no, absolutely. I'm inspired too. So we'll do get status. So we added the item. We added our sunburst graph and the query. So we're adding a feature. Add Israel is the Z of uh of how does that sound?
Yeah, let's just be a little bit more specific. Add visualization of like aid value by category or something like that.
By category. Love it.
Yeah.
Now this will be on its own branch. Shall I merge it into the PR one, or do you feel more comfortable with it being its own thing?
I think let's push it as its own branch, and the reason for that is like I'm so excited about this, because I've been waiting years. This has been like lots of shipping work I've done, and then building the data pipeline. I want to keep hacking on this after the stream. It's still afternoon for me, so I might play around with the colors, see if I
Sounds
can
good.
get that category to item layer going, and then I'll ask for a review and merge that back into Jake's branch.
Yeah. Tag me in a PR and I'll happily review it.
Sounds good.
Folks, if you're watching, let me bring us back. Folks, if you're watching, if you're inspired, please get in touch. Please come join in. Please check out the repo. Everything's open source, so come join in and contribute.
Yeah, and quite literally, I'm going to be working on this, for the next couple hours. So hit me up on Twitter. I can open up a Zoom and a Gitpod, and we can pair up and hack on it together if you're feeling inspired like I am.
Awesome. Taylor, this was great. Thank you so much.
Tons of fun, Ramon.
Yeah.
Cool. Take care, everyone, and we'll catch you next week.
Yeah. Take care, everyone.